Admiral Kate Morrison stood on the bridge of the TSS Liberty and watched the last ships leave New Eden Colony. The massive evacuation vessels moved slowly through space, carrying what remained of 3 million people. Behind them, the planet burned with green fire that would never go out. "That's the last transport, Admiral," said Commander Jake Harrison. His voice was steady, but Kate could see the pain in his eyes. They had lost another world to the Vorthak Empire. Kate nodded and turned away from the main screen. She couldn't bear to watch New Eden die. It was the 17th human colony the Vorthak had destroyed in just 3 months. Each time they used the same terrible weapons. The biovirus turned everything alive into twisted metal and poison. Nothing could stop it once it started. "How many colonies do we have left?" Kate asked, though she already knew the answer would be bad. 12, ma'am," Jake replied. "And our scouts report the Vorthak main fleet is moving toward the inner systems. They'll reach Earth's outer colonies in 2 weeks. Kate felt her heart sink. The Terran Colonial Alliance had fought bravely, but they were no match for the Vorthak Empire. The enemy had ruled the eastern part of the galaxy for thousands of years. Their technology was far beyond anything humans had ever seen. The bridge door opened and Dr. Lisa Chen walked in. She carried a datapad and looked more excited than anyone had a right to be during such dark times. "Admiral, I need to speak with you," Lisa said. "I think I've found something important." Kate looked at the young scientist. Lisa had been working day and night in the archives, searching for any information that might help them. So far, she had found nothing useful. "What is it, Doctor?" Kate asked. "I've been studying old records from before we left Earth," Lisa explained. "Not our records, but alien ones. Reports from other species about a race they call the most dangerous in the galaxy." Jake laughed, but there was no humor in it. "More dangerous than the Vorthak? That's hard to believe." "They're called humans," Lisa continued. "According to these reports, they once brought the entire galaxy to its knees. Every species feared them, but then they vanished without explanation." Kate stared at Lisa. "Humans? But we're human." "That's just it," Lisa said, her eyes bright with possibility. "I think we're not the same humans. The records describe beings of incredible power and intelligence. They had technology that made the Vorthak look like children playing with toys." "But they're gone," Jake pointed out. "Everyone knows the ancient humans are extinct." Lisa shook her head. "That's what everyone believes, but what if they're not? What if they just went into hiding?" Kate felt a small spark of hope, but she pushed it down. They couldn't afford false hope now. Even if these superhumans exist, why would they help us? We're strangers to them. "Because we're being wiped out," Lisa said simply. "The records say the ancient humans hated genocide above all else. They fought wars to stop it even when it cost them everything." The bridge fell silent. Outside the windows, the last evacuation ship disappeared into hyperspace. New Eden was now just a dying world behind them. "Admiral," came a voice from the communication station. "We're receiving a priority message from Earth Command." Kate walked over to the comm station. "Put it through." The face of Admiral Robert Hayes appeared on the screen. He looked older than when Kate had seen him just a week ago. The stress of losing so many worlds was taking its toll on all of them. "Kate, I need your ship back at Earth immediately," Robert said. "The Vorthak have sent us an ultimatum. We have 72 hours to surrender completely, or they'll start destroying our core worlds." "What's our response?" Kate asked, though she already knew. "We fight," Robert said firmly. "We'll make our stand at Earth. Every ship, every person who can hold a weapon. We won't go quietly." Kate felt proud of the old admiral, but she also knew it was hopeless. The Vorthak had hundreds of ships for everyone they had. The battle would be over in hours. "Sir, I have a proposal," Kate said. "Dr. Chen has discovered something that might help us." Robert looked skeptical. "What kind of help?" Kate looked at Lisa, who stepped forward. "Admiral Hayes, I believe the ancient humans still exist somewhere in the galaxy. If we could find them and convince them to help us." Robert's expression didn't change. "Doctor, we don't have time for fairy tales. I need every ship for Earth's defense. Sir, with respect, defending Earth is suicide, Kate said. We all know that. But if there's even a small chance these ancient humans exist, shouldn't we try? Robert was quiet for a long moment. Kate could see him thinking, weighing their impossible situation. What would you need? He asked finally. One ship and a small crew, Lisa said quickly. We could search the outer rim territories where the old records suggest they might be hiding. And if you're wrong, Robert asked, if these ancient humans are just myths, then we die trying something instead of just waiting to die, Kate replied. Robert nodded slowly. Very well. Take your ship and whoever volunteers to go with you. But Kate, I can only give you 2 weeks. After that, you need to return for the final battle. Understood, sir, Kate said. The transmission ended and Kate turned to address her bridge crew. You heard the Admiral. This is a volunteer mission only. Anyone who wants to transfer to another ship for Earth's defense can do so. With no shame, Commander Jake Harrison stepped forward. I'm with you, Admiral. One by one, the other bridge officers voiced their agreement. Kate felt a surge of pride in her crew, even as she worried she was leading them to their deaths. Very well, Kate said. Dr. Chen, prepare everything you have on these ancient humans. Jake, get me our best pilot, engineer, and communications officer. We'll need a small team that can handle anything. As the crew began preparations, Kate looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, if Lisa was right, lived beings who might be able to save humanity. The problem was finding them in a galaxy, with billions of star systems. Dr. Lisa Chen worked at her station, pulling up every scrap of information she had found. The records were old and often contradictory. Some described the ancient humans as giants with multiple arms. Others said they could breathe fire or survive in space without suits, but there were details that appeared in multiple reports. The humans were said to be incredibly smart and adaptable. They could learn any language and master any technology. Most importantly, they never abandoned anyone who asked for their help. Admiral, Lisa called out, I found something interesting. There are reports of strange signals coming from the galactic rim, signals that don't match any known species. Kate walked over to look at Lisa's screen. How old are these reports? Recent, Lisa said. Within the last year. And look at this mathematical pattern in the signals. Kate studied the data. She wasn't a scientist, but even she could see that the pattern was too complex to be natural. Could it be them? Kate asked. Maybe, Lisa said. It's our best lead. Kate made her decision. Set course for the galactic rim. And Lisa, I hope you're right about this, because if you're not, we're about to waste humanity's last chance on a legend. As the TSS Liberty turned toward the unknown regions of space, Kate Morrison tried to push down her doubts. They were looking for mythical beings who might not exist to save a species that was already doomed. But sometimes, when everything else had failed, myths were all you had left. Captain Ryan Bell looked at his small crew as they prepared to leave the TSS Liberty. Admiral Morrison had given him command of the scout ship Endeavour for their impossible mission. 5 people to search an entire galaxy for beings that might not even exist. His pilot was Amy Foster, a young woman with steady hands and nerves of steel. She could fly anything with engines, and had gotten them out of trouble more times than Ryan could count. Next to her stood Pete Santos, their communications officer. Pete could speak 12 different alien languages and had a gift for making friends wherever they went. Danny Kim was their engineer, a quiet man who could fix anything that broke and improve things that already worked perfectly. Marie Davis served as their security chief. She was small but tough, and Ryan had seen her take down aliens twice her size without breaking a sweat. Dr. Lisa Chen completed their team. She carried all the research about the ancient humans and would guide their search through the outer rim territories. Remember, we have 2 weeks, Ryan told his crew as they boarded the Endeavour. After that, we need to return to Earth for the final battle. Amy powered up the ship's engines while Pete checked their communication systems. Danny ran diagnostics on everything else, and Marie secured their small weapons locker. Lisa spread her research materials across the navigation table. Where do we start? Ryan asked Lisa as they left the Liberty behind. The old records mention several star systems where ancient humans were last seen, Lisa explained. But that was over 300 years ago. I think our best bet is to find other species who might have more recent information. You mean ask around? Pete said with a grin. I can do that. Their first stop was Kepler Station, a trading post that floated in the empty space between star systems. Ships from dozens of different species came here to buy, sell, and exchange information. If anyone had heard recent stories about ancient humans, this would be the place to find them. The station was crowded and noisy. Alien traders argued over prices in a dozen different languages. The air smelled like exotic spices and engine fuel. Ryan's crew split up to cover more ground and ask questions. Pete found their first lead at a tavern in the station's lower levels. An old Thraxian smuggler named Zektar sat alone at a corner table, drinking something that glowed purple. Ancient humans? Zektar repeated when Pete asked about them. My grandfather claimed he met one once many years ago. Pete leaned forward, with interest. What did he say about it? Terrible creature, Zektar said, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. 7 feet tall with 4 arms and skin like metal, could breathe plasma fire and bend steel with its bare hands. Pete nodded politely, but he was disappointed. This sounded like every other wild story they had heard. The galaxy was full of tales about the ancient humans, but they were all different and most made no sense. Meanwhile, Amy and Danny were talking to a group of merchants near the docking bays. A Krellin trader told them about humans who could fly through space without ships. A Vegan captain swore he had seen one that was 20 feet tall and made of pure energy. Marie was having similar luck with the security officers. Everyone had heard stories, but no 2 stories matched. Some said humans had tentacles, others said they had wings. One alien insisted they were made of living fire. Ryan and Lisa met with the station administrator, a tired-looking Centaurian, who kept detailed records of every ship that passed through. I'm sorry, but I've never seen anything matching those descriptions, the administrator said, and I've been here for 40 years. Lisa showed him some of the older records. What about ships with unknown technology? Energy signatures that don't match any known species? The administrator thought for a moment. There have been a few strange readings over the years. Ships that appeared on our sensors for a few seconds, then vanished completely, but we assumed they were sensor errors. Can you show us the data? Lisa asked. The administrator brought up his files on a holographic display. Lisa studied the energy patterns with growing excitement. Ryan, look at this, she called out. These readings don't match any known propulsion system. Ryan examined the data. He wasn't a scientist, but even he could see that something unusual had passed through this area. The crew regrouped on the endeavor to share what they had learned. Everyone was discouraged by the wild and contradictory stories. It's like playing a game of telephone across the galaxy, Amy said. Every time someone tells the story, it changes. But that might actually help us, Lisa said thoughtfully, if we ignore all the obvious exaggerations and look for common elements. She pulled up all their notes on a computer screen. Look, every story mentions incredible technology. Everyone talks about beings who are extremely intelligent. And, most importantly, every story says they helped other species when asked. So we're looking for helpful geniuses with amazing technology, Pete summarized. That narrows it down. Their next stop was the ruins of Xerion, a dead world where ancient battles had supposedly taken place. The planet's surface was covered in strange craters and melted rock formations that no one could explain. Danny set up equipment to scan the area while the others explored on foot. The landscape was desolate and empty, but Lisa was fascinated by the evidence of old weapons. These blast patterns are unlike anything in our databases, she said, running her scanner over a crater. The energy levels must have been enormous, Danny called out from his equipment. I'm picking up residual radiation signatures. They're faint, but they're definitely artificial. Lisa rushed over to look at his readings. Her eyes went wide with excitement. This is incredible, she said. These energy patterns match theoretical models for controlled nuclear fusion at the molecular level. We've never seen technology like this actually used. Is that good or bad? Ryan asked. It's impossible, Lisa replied. At least it should be impossible with any technology we know about. They spent hours documenting the strange energy signatures before moving on to their next destination. Each abandoned battlefield they visited showed similar signs of incredibly advanced weapons that left no trace of radioactive contamination. Whoever fought these battles, Marie observed, they were very careful not to poison the planets they were trying to save. Their breakthrough came 3 days later, while they were investigating reports of strange signals near the galactic edge. Amy was monitoring their communications array when she noticed something unusual. "Captain, I'm picking up a transmission," she announced. "It's heavily encrypted and coming from somewhere beyond the rim." Pete tried to decode the signal, but it was unlike anything he had ever seen. The encryption was incredibly sophisticated, using mathematical principles that hurt his head to think about. "I can't break this," he admitted after several hours of work. "But I can tell you it's definitely artificial. Someone is broadcasting this signal on purpose." Lisa joined Pete at the communications station. Together, they analyzed the signal's structure and patterns. "Look at this," Lisa said, pointing to a series of numbers. "This is a mathematical sequence, prime numbers arranged in a specific pattern." "So?" Amy asked from the pilot's seat. "So prime number sequences like this don't occur naturally," Lisa explained. "Someone is definitely trying to communicate." Ryan made a decision. "Amy, plot a course toward the signal's source. We're going to find out who's broadcasting." The Endeavor turned toward the galactic rim, heading into unexplored space. Behind them, they received word that 2 more human colonies had fallen to the Vorthak. The enemy fleet was getting closer to Earth with each passing day. "I hope we find something soon," Danny said quietly, as he watched the familiar stars disappear behind them. "We will," Lisa said with more confidence than she felt. "We have to." As they traveled deeper into unknown space, the signal grew stronger. Whatever was broadcasting it was powerful enough to reach across thousands of light years. That level of technology gave Lisa hope that they were finally on the right track. But it also scared her. If they found the ancient humans, would they be willing to help? And if they were as powerful as the legend suggested, what would they want in return? Time was running out for humanity, and they were flying blind into the unknown, chasing signals and hoping for miracles. The Endeavor dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of an empty star system. Captain Ryan Bell looked at the scanner readings and frowned. According to their equipment, there was nothing here except a small red sun and 2 rocky planets. "Are you sure this is the right place?" Ryan asked Amy, who was double-checking their navigation. "The signal is definitely coming from here," Amy replied, "but I'm not seeing anything on sensors." Dr. Lisa Chen studied her instruments with growing confusion. The mathematical transmission was stronger than ever, but there were no ships, no stations, nothing that could be broadcasting such a powerful signal. "Maybe they're hiding," Pete Santos suggested. "Some kind of cloaking technology." Marie Davis checked their weapon systems, though she knew their small scout ship wouldn't be much use against anyone with advanced technology. "Should we try to make contact?" Ryan nodded to Pete. "Send a general greeting on all frequencies. Let them know we're peaceful and need help." Pete activated their communications array and began broadcasting. "This is the Terran vessel Endeavor calling any stations in this system. We are peaceful explorers seeking assistance. Please respond." For several minutes, they heard nothing but silence. Then Danny Kim called out from his engineering station, "Captain, something's happening. I'm reading massive energy signatures all around us." Before Ryan could respond, the Endeavor shuddered violently. Invisible hands seemed to grab their ship and pull it forward through space. Amy tried to regain control, but her engines had no effect. "We're caught in some kind of tractor beam," Amy reported, her voice tight with worry. Through the main screen, they watched in amazement as ships began to appear around them. First one, then 10, then dozens of vessels materialized out of empty space. The ships were unlike anything in their databases, sleek, dark, and somehow dangerous looking, even while sitting still. "Those are warships," Marie said quietly. "Big ones." The largest vessel was easily 3 times the size of anything in the Terran fleet. Its hull was smooth and black with no visible weapons ports or engine outlets. It moved through space like a living creature, graceful, and deadly. "They're scanning us," Danny reported. "Very thorough scans. They know everything about our ship." Now, Ryan tried to stay calm, but his heart was racing. If these were the ancient humans, they were certainly powerful enough to match the legends. "Pete, keep trying to establish communication." Before Pete could respond, Ryan felt a strange tingling sensation. The bridge around him seemed to shimmer and fade. When his vision cleared, he was standing in a completely different room. His entire crew was there, looking as confused as he felt. They were in what appeared to be a holding area with white walls and bright lights. The room was clean and sterile, but not uncomfortable. "Where are we?" Amy asked, looking around nervously. "I think we've been transported," Lisa said with wonder in her voice. "Matter transportation technology. That's supposed to be impossible." The wall in front of them became transparent, revealing a corridor beyond. 3 figures approached, walking with confident, measured steps. Ryan's first thought was that these beings looked almost normal. They were bipedal like most intelligent species, but they only had 2 arms and 2 legs instead of the usual 4 or 6. Their skin was pale, and their faces were different from any species Ryan had ever seen. The leader was a tall male wearing what appeared to be a military uniform. His hair was dark and cut short, and his eyes were a bright blue color that seemed to look right through them. "I am Colonel Jack Newman," the being said in perfect Terran standard language. "You are aboard the human ship Defiance." The crew stared at him in shock. These were humans, but not like any humans they had ever seen. Where Terran humans were generally shorter and darker from generations of life under different suns, these beings looked like they had stepped out of ancient Earth history books. "You're human?" Ryan managed to ask. Colonel Newman nodded. "We are indeed human. The same species your ancestors fled from Earth centuries ago, though we suspect you have forgotten much of your history." Lisa stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. "But the records, the legends, they describe you as monsters with multiple arms and incredible powers." Newman's expression softened slightly, and Ryan thought he saw amusement in the man's eyes. "The galaxy has a tendency to exaggerate. Fear makes people see things that aren't there." "Are you going to hurt us?" Marie asked directly. "That depends," Newman replied. "Why are you here? Why were you broadcasting distress signals toward our territory?" Ryan took a deep breath and decided to tell the truth. "Our people are being destroyed. The Vorthak Empire is wiping out every human colony they can find. We came looking for help." Newman's expression grew hard. "The Vorthak, we know of them. They have grown bold in our absence." "Your absence?" Pete asked. "We withdrew from galactic affairs long ago," Newman explained. "After the last war nearly destroyed us, we chose isolation. We hoped the galaxy would learn to live in peace without our interference." Lisa pulled out her datapad and showed Newman the information about the Vorthak bioweapons. "They're not just killing our people. These weapons are designed to consume all organic life. If they're not stopped, they'll eventually destroy every living thing in the galaxy." Newman studied the data with growing anger. Ryan could see the man's jaw tighten as he read about the destruction of 17 colonial worlds. "Come with me," Newman said finally. "There are others who need to hear this." They walked through corridors that seemed to go on forever. The ship was enormous, easily the size of a small city. Crew members they passed were all human, but like Newman, they looked different from Terran humans. Taller, stronger, with an alertness that suggested they were always ready for trouble. "How many of you are there?" Ryan asked as they walked. "Enough," Newman replied simply. They entered a large room filled with advanced equipment. Holographic displays showed star charts, ship movements, and data streams Ryan couldn't begin to understand. Several humans in uniform looked up from their workstations. "Admiral Parker will want to see this immediately," Newman told one of his officers. Within minutes, a tall woman with gray hair and stern features entered the room. She wore more decorations on her uniform than Newman, and everyone stood straighter when she appeared. "Admiral Helen Parker," she introduced herself. Colonel Newman tells me you bring word of Vorthak atrocities. Ryan repeated their story while Lisa shared all their data about the bioweapons. Admiral Parker listened without interruption, but Ryan could see her anger building with each detail. How long do your people have? Parker asked when they finished. Maybe a week before they reach Earth, Ryan replied. Our fleet will try to make a stand, but we don't have the ships or weapons to stop them. Parker was quiet for a long moment, studying the holographic displays around them. Finally, she spoke. You should know that your people, the Terran colonists, are descendants of humans who left Earth during our great exodus. In a sense, you are asking your own family for help. Ryan felt his heart skip. We're related? Distantly, but yes, Parker confirmed. When humanity spread to the stars, some groups chose to stay close to Earth. Others, like your ancestors, went to the far reaches of space to start over. We remained behind to guard what we had built. Lisa was studying the technology around them with amazement. Your ships, your weapons, they're far beyond anything we've ever seen. We've had centuries to develop in isolation, Parker explained. While the galaxy forgot about us, we never stopped preparing for the day we might need to act again. Marie looked at the advanced equipment nervously. If you're so powerful, why didn't you stop the Vorthak before they destroyed our colonies? Parker's expression grew sad. Because we promised ourselves we would never again interfere in galactic affairs unless the threat affected everyone. We hoped local conflicts would resolve themselves. And now? Ryan asked. Admiral Parker activated a communication device. Now I'm calling an emergency meeting of our High Council. If the Vorthak truly plan to destroy all organic life, then this is no longer a local conflict. As alarms began sounding throughout the massive ship, Ryan felt a mixture of hope and fear. They had found the ancient humans, and they were clearly powerful enough to help. But would they choose to act? And if they did, what would that mean for the galaxy? The sleeping giant was beginning to stir, and Ryan wasn't sure anyone was ready for what came next. Captain Ryan Bell and his crew waited in a comfortable room aboard the human ship, while Admiral Parker called her emergency meeting. Through the large windows, they could see more ships appearing in the system. Each new vessel was massive and advanced beyond anything they had imagined. How many ships do they have? Amy Foster whispered as she counted dozens of new arrivals.
Enough to change the course of galactic history, Dr. Lisa Chen replied, studying the energy readings on her scanner. Each one of these ships has more firepower than our entire Terran fleet. Colonel Newman returned after an hour with news.
The High Council will see you now. Admiral Parker wants you to present your case directly to our leaders. They followed Newman through more corridors until they reached a massive chamber filled with humans in military uniforms. The room had a circular design with seats arranged in tiers like an ancient amphitheater. At the center sat 12 individuals, who Ryan assumed were the most important leaders of human civilization. Admiral Parker stood and addressed the assembly. Council members, these are our distant relatives from the Terran colonies. They bring word of genocide by the Vorthak Empire. An older man with white hair leaned forward. How many worlds have been lost? 17 colonies completely destroyed, Ryan answered. 3 million people dead, with millions more fleeing as refugees. A woman with kind eyes but a stern expression spoke next. The Vorthak have committed atrocities before. Why should this concern us more than their previous actions? Lisa stepped forward with her datapad. Because this time is different. Their bioweapons aren't designed just to kill. They're designed to consume all organic matter and spread to other worlds. If they're not stopped, they'll eventually destroy every living thing in the galaxy. She activated a holographic display that showed the spread pattern of the Vorthak weapons. The council members watched in growing horror as the simulation showed world after world turning lifeless. This isn't conquest, Lisa continued. This is total extinction of all organic life. They plan to turn the entire galaxy into a sterile empire of machines. The council erupted in shocked whispers. Even these powerful humans seemed disturbed by the scope of the Vorthak plan. General Sam Rodriguez, a tough-looking man with scars on his face, stood up. If this is true, then we cannot remain neutral. This threatens every living being in the galaxy. Including us, added Admiral Parker. Our hidden worlds would eventually be found and destroyed. But another council member disagreed. We swore, after the last war, that we would never again interfere in galactic affairs. Too many died because of our actions. That was different, Rodriguez argued. We were fighting for territory and resources then. This is about survival of all life. The debate continued for hours. Ryan and his crew listened as the most powerful humans in the galaxy argued about their future. Some wanted to maintain isolation, at all costs. Others believed they had a duty to protect the innocent. Finally, Admiral Parker called for quiet. We need to consider what our ancestors would want us to do. When humans first left Earth, what was our greatest strength? Colonel Newman answered from his position near the wall. We protected those who couldn't protect themselves, even when it cost us everything. Exactly, Parker said. We didn't become the most feared species in the galaxy through conquest. We earned that reputation by standing between the strong and the weak. An elderly woman who had been quiet throughout the debate finally spoke. I was there during the last war. I saw entire star systems burn because of our choices. How can we risk that again? Because this time we're not fighting for ourselves, Rodriguez replied. We're fighting for everyone. Ryan felt compelled to speak. I know we're asking a lot. We're strangers to you even if we share ancient blood. But our people are dying and soon the Vorthak will come for others. If you don't act now, there may be no one left to save. The council members looked at each other, communicating with glances and small gestures that spoke of years of working together. Finally, Admiral Parker stood. All in favor of military intervention? One by one, hands went up around the chamber. When the count was finished, the vote was unanimous. Very well, Parker announced. Humanity returns to the galaxy. Colonel Newman, begin mobilizing our fleets. General Rodriguez, prepare our ground forces. We have work to do. The chamber erupted in activity as military leaders began making plans. Ryan felt a mixture of relief and terror. These humans could save his people, but their power was frightening to witness. Admiral Parker approached Ryan and his crew. Captain Bell, I'm assigning Colonel Newman to work with you. You know more about current Vorthak tactics than we do. What do you want us to do? Ryan asked. First, we need to send a message to the galaxy, Parker replied. After centuries of silence, humanity needs to announce its return. But we'll do it properly this time. She led them to a communications center where technicians were preparing a galaxy-wide broadcast system. Ryan had never seen technology that could reach every inhabited world simultaneously. What kind of message? Pete Santos asked, his communication officer instincts taking over. Parker smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. The Vorthak need to understand that their actions have consequences, and the rest of the galaxy needs to know that humanity stands ready to protect them. Colonel Newman began drafting the message, while Parker showed Ryan's crew the true scope of human military power. Through secure channels, they watched as fleets mobilized throughout the hidden human territories. How many ships do you have? Amy asked, amazed by the numbers she was seeing. Enough, Newman replied, which seemed to be a standard human answer to difficult questions. But Ryan could see the truth in the tactical displays. The humans had hundreds of advanced warships, each one capable of destroying entire fleets. Their technology was centuries ahead of anything else in the galaxy. More importantly, they had something the Vorthak didn't expect: the element of surprise. For 300 years, the galaxy had believed humanity was extinct. The Vorthak had grown confident in their superiority. The Vorthak Supreme Commander is named Kethvar, Lisa told Newman as they reviewed intelligence reports. He's led their empire for 2 centuries and has never lost a battle. He's about to, Newman replied calmly. Dr. Lisa Chen was fascinated by the human technology around her. Your ships can phase through normal matter, and your weapons can disable enemy vessels without destroying them. We learned long ago that destruction is often less effective than precision, Admiral Parker explained. Any fool can blow up a planet. It takes real skill to remove a threat without unnecessary casualties. Marie Davis studied the tactical reports with professional interest. You're going to try to capture their ships instead of destroying them? When possible, Rodriguez confirmed. Dead enemies can't surrender. Live enemies can be convinced to make better choices. As the preparations continued, Ryan received updates from Earth. The news was bad. 2 more colonies had fallen, and the Vorthak main fleet was only days away from the core worlds. Time was running out. Admiral Parker, we need to move soon, Ryan said urgently. Earth won't be able to hold out much longer. Parker nodded. Our first ships are already moving into position. The Vorthak won't know what hit them. She activated the galaxy-wide communication system. This message will reach every inhabited world in the galaxy. The Vorthak will receive it, along with everyone else. Colonel Newman stood before the camera, his expression serious but calm. This is Colonel Jack Newman of the Human Defense Fleet. After 3 centuries of silence, we return to address a threat to all organic life. The Vorthak Empire has one chance to withdraw from all occupied territories and cease their genocidal campaign. They have 24 hours to comply. This is their only warning. The message went out across the galaxy, carried by technology that defied known physics. For the first time in centuries, humanity had spoken to the stars. What happens now? Ryan asked. Admiral Parker checked her tactical displays, where human fleets were moving into attack positions throughout Vorthak space. Now we remind the galaxy why they used to fear us, she said quietly. And we show them why they should be grateful we're on their side. Supreme Commander Kethvar of the Vorthak Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, and laughed at the message he had just received. The bridge crew around him shifted nervously, but none dared to interrupt their leaders. Amusement. Humans, Kethvar said to his tactical officer. Some desperate Terran colony thinks they can frighten us with fairy tales. The tactical officer, a loyal Vorthak warrior named Drekmon, consulted his reports. Supreme Commander, our intelligence suggests this message came from outside known space. The technology required to broadcast to the entire galaxy simultaneously is beyond anything we have seen. Kethvar waved a dismissive hand. Clever engineering from a dying species. They probably spent their last resources on this pathetic bluff. Should we respond to their demand? Drekmon asked. By accelerating our timeline, Kethvar replied. Begin the assault on Earth immediately. Let the galaxy see what happens to those who threaten the Vorthak Empire. The massive Vorthak fleet, consisting of over 300 warships, began moving toward Earth. Each ship carried enough bioweapons to destroy an entire world. Kethvar had ruled the Eastern Galaxy for 2 centuries, and no one had ever successfully challenged his power. But as his fleet approached the outer planets of the Earth system, something impossible happened. Ships began appearing out of empty space around them. Not just a few ships, but hundreds of vessels unlike anything in the Vorthak databases. What are those? Kethvar demanded, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. The ships were sleek and dark, moving through space with a grace that defied physics. They seemed to phase in and out of normal space, appearing solid one moment and translucent the next. Unknown vessel types, Drekmon reported, his voice shaking. They're not matching any known species in our records. Captain Ryan Bell watched. The battle began from the bridge of the human flagship Defiance. Admiral Parker stood beside him, calmly giving orders to her fleet commanders. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying. Phase 1 begin, Parker announced into her communication system. The human ships moved with impossible coordination. Where the Vorthak fleet had 300 vessels, the humans brought 600. But numbers weren't the only advantage. The human ships moved like they were alive, dodging Vorthak weapons fire that should have been impossible to avoid. How are they doing that? Amy Foster asked, watching a human cruiser phase through a Vorthak energy beam. Colonel Newman explained, without taking his eyes off the tactical display. Dimensional shifting technology. We can exist partially outside normal space for short periods. The Vorthak opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams that could crack planets struck human ships and passed harmlessly through them. Missiles, that could destroy entire fleets found no targets to hit. But when the humans returned fire, the results were devastating. Vorthak warships found their weapon systems surgically removed by beams of impossible precision. Engine cores were disabled without damaging life support. Within minutes, dozens of Vorthak ships were floating helplessly in space. Impossible, Kethvar whispered as he watched his mighty fleet being systematically dismantled. Nothing has technology like this. Dr. Lisa Chen monitored the battle from her station on the Defiance. They're not killing anyone, she observed with amazement. Every shot is perfectly aimed to disable without destroying. Marie Davis nodded in approval. They could have vaporized the entire Vorthak fleet in the first minute. Instead, they're choosing to capture them. The battle was over in less than an hour. 300 Vorthak warships, the pride of their empire, now floated powerless in space. Not a single crew member had been killed, but every ship was completely disabled. Admiral Parker opened a communication channel to the Vorthak flagship. Supreme Commander Kethvar, this is Admiral Helen Parker of the Human Defense Fleet. You have two choices: surrender unconditionally, or watch your empire burn. Kethvar stared at the communication screen in shock. The being addressing him looked almost fragile compared to his own armored form, but her eyes held a coldness that made his ancient warrior's heart skip a beat. What are you? Kethvar asked quietly. We are what your people used to fear in the dark, Parker replied. We are the guardians you forgot about, and we are very disappointed in your behavior. Meanwhile, reports were coming in from across Vorthak space. Human fleets had appeared at every major Vorthak world simultaneously. In system after system, the pattern was the same: overwhelming human superiority, precise attacks that disabled rather than destroyed, and complete Vorthak defeat within hours. Pete Santos was monitoring communications from across the galaxy. Admiral Parker, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 Vorthak sectors. Their regional commanders are asking for terms. Parker nodded calmly. Accept their surrenders. All Vorthak forces are to power down their weapons and prepare for inspection. Danny Kim was amazed by the scope of the operation. You coordinated attacks across thousands of light years simultaneously. How is that possible? Quantum communication networks, Newman explained. We can send messages instantly across any distance. General Rodriguez appeared on the main screen from his command ship. Admiral, we've secured the Vorthak homeworld. Their government is requesting an immediate audience. Excellent, Parker replied. Prepare for Phase 2. Ryan was confused. Phase 2? Parker smiled, and for the first time it seemed genuinely warm. Now comes the hard part. We have to teach them how to live in peace. The scene shifted to the Vorthak homeworld, where Dr. Elizabeth Wright, a human specialist in interspecies relations, walked alone into the Vorthak Capitol building. She carried no weapons and wore simple diplomatic clothing. The Vorthak leadership waited for her in their Grand Council chamber. These were beings who had ruled through fear and violence for millennia, but now they sat quietly as a single human woman approached their throne. I am Dr. Elizabeth Wright, she said calmly. I speak for humanity in all matters of peace and cooperation. The Vorthak Emperor, an ancient being whose name was feared across the galaxy, leaned forward on his throne. What do you want from us? We want you to choose, Elizabeth replied simply. You can continue down the path of genocide and face complete destruction. Or you can learn to coexist peacefully with other species and become part of a better galaxy. And if we refuse? The Emperor asked. Elizabeth's expression didn't change, but somehow the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Then you will discover why the galaxy used to have nightmares about humanity. The Emperor looked around at his advisors, seeing fear in their eyes for the first time in centuries. His empire was broken, his fleets captured, and his people were at the mercy of beings whose power he couldn't comprehend. What would peace require of us? He asked quietly. An end to all bioweapon production, Elizabeth began. Full compensation for the worlds you have destroyed. Participation in a galactic protection treaty that prevents future genocides. And most importantly, a genuine commitment to coexistence with other species. The negotiations took days, but the outcome was never in doubt. The Vorthak Empire faced, with technology they couldn't fight and precision they couldn't match, agreed to every human demand. Across the galaxy, the news spread quickly. The ancient humans had returned, not as conquerors but as protectors. Species that had lived in fear of the Vorthak for centuries suddenly found themselves free. Captain Ryan Bell stood on the observation deck of the Defiance, watching as human ships began escorting Vorthak vessels to designated areas for inspection and disarmament. The war was over and not a single world had been destroyed in the fighting. What happens now? Ryan asked Admiral Parker, who had joined him at the viewing port. Now we establish the Galactic Protection Accord, Parker replied. A treaty system that will prevent future genocides. We'll maintain monitoring stations throughout the galaxy, but we won't rule anyone. You're going back into hiding? Parker shook her head. Not hiding. Watching. We'll be there when people need protection, but we won't interfere in normal politics or development. That's how we should have done it 300 years ago. Dr. Lisa Chen approached them with her final reports. The Vorthak bioweapons have been completely neutralized. We've developed a cure that will restore the damaged worlds within a few years. Amy Foster looked out at the fleet of human ships preparing to disperse throughout the galaxy. Will we see you again? Colonel Newman, who had been quietly listening, smiled. Probably not directly, but you'll know we're there. When someone needs help, when the strong threaten the weak, when genocide rears its ugly head again, we'll be there. Ryan felt a mixture of sadness and pride. His people were safe, the galaxy was protected, and he had witnessed something incredible. Humanity had returned not as the monsters of legend, but as the guardians they had always been meant to be. As the Endeavor prepared to return to Earth with news of their success, Ryan looked back at the massive human fleet one last time. They were already beginning to fade back into the shadows, returning to their hidden worlds to watch and wait. The galaxy was safe again, protected by beings who understood that true strength came not from the power to destroy, but from the wisdom to know when not to use that power.